to work out and talk to each other, and then they make them do like so they make them couple up throughout the show. Like you have to be in a couple basically to like stay for. If you're single for more than a couple weeks, I think you get booted. So you have to be coupled, and it alternates boys and girls picking who gets to be in the couples, and they at the end of it they win some money if they stay in a couple or whoever. I mean, it ends up American Idol, like where it's like whoever's the most popular couple gets the money. But
The money, okay, that's sounds very interesting. Sounds like something your girlfriend would watch.
So it's hilarious is I got turned on to Chris Williamson before I knew what Love Island was, but he kept referencing it because he was one of the original participants in it. But now he's like got a master's in evolutionary psychology because he's like, I wanted to learn. He's like, hey, I was like a gym bro, and then I was on this dating show, and I really wanted to, but I was always like a nerd, and I always wanted to figure out exactly what makes people tick, especially attraction and stuff like that. And he's like started this podcast with like over 1 million subscribers now, and they talk fitness and they talk evolutionary psychology and other interesting things, but it's mostly but yeah, he got his fucking master's coming up with the sedated male hypothesis, which is that the reason there hasn't been like an incel uprising is because we have such good video games in the West.
I would actually believe that, actually.
Yeah, he's got some data to back it up. It's published paper, so
interesting. All right, that's a good way to start
Williams
this episode.
It's the Williams sedated male hypothesis.
So video games are to the incel population what Planned Parenthood is to the black population. Is that what you're saying?
I would say video games to the incel population are, and if we're not live right now, we need to be.
Oh, we're live. We are live.
Okay, good.
We've been live since Love Island, baby.
Video games are to incels. What would be the analogy for the African American community? Fentanyl, maybe.
Crack.
Crack incites a lot of violence. I feel like fent, you just like, it's so cheap, you just do it and you end up just like not causing a ton of problems except for when the coroner has to pick you up off the street,
Yeah, usually, yeah.
I hate to say it that way, but
well, that's the truth.
Oh, man. The cat is watching the debate with us. Oh, he's walking on stage. Should we?
Yeah, let me. Yeah, I got it.
I got it. Cap going?
I got it. Hang on. Do I got it?
Hopefully, I can hear it through your thing. Oh my god, he had his Botox yesterday. Biden.
Yeah, of course he did.
Oh, here comes the DJT. Jacket open.
Ooh.
To start. Wow. He's starting loose. He's starting, just kind of relaxed, I think. Wait, when are you going to get this going? Or
I'm trying. Discord's having a little fit. There we go. Okay. We get the volume.
Cost $100 then.
Okay,
now
there we go.
costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency
you're on the
than
Fox
they were
News
under
version
President
of it?
Trump?
Yeah.
We got to take a look.
You could go to the CNN one.
I can if you want.
Mr. Trump.
It doesn't matter. I just thought it was funny. You want to full screen it? So I think we'll be camera and camera at that point.
It's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right.
The lighting is so weird on this stream.
Dude,
unemployment rate rose to 15%.
Biden's eyes are a little red.
It's terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together.
You can barely hear him through your
That's
stream.
That's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000
new jobs. I may have to adjust the volume.
We brought out a position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table,
rat from
things
Scranton.
weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem. The price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make
Do
sure.
you think if I cut
deal
off
with those
the
problems.
cockerel
And we're gonna
hanging
make
from
sure
his
we
neck, I could
reduce the
fully
price of
restore
housing.
my
We're
foreskin?
going to make
Yes,
sure
you
we
could.
build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition
Corporate
to that,
greed.
we're in a
Corporate greed.
situation where if you
That's a
had to
drink right
look
there.
at all that was done in his
Did you
administration,
see the post-debate
he
rules I
didn't do much at
posted?
all. By the time he
minute ago?
left, things were in chaos.
I'm
Literally
gonna have to keep those
chaos.
ready.
And
Okay,
the
so I
Supreme
gotta
Court
kill the
created
full
that
screen I
set of
have
jobs.
going
We're gonna make
because
sure
it's
we
wiping
have a
out
situation
everything
where
apparently. So
we
All right,
down
that's
the
fine.
price of
Whatever.
prescription drugs,
It's
which
just
is a
now we've.
major issue
Can you
for
close the
many
chat? I don't want to look at Fox
$15
News
for-
viewers'
Hang on.
thoughts.
a insulin shot as opposed
It's
to
not
$400.
what I
Each
want.
senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next
all the
year.
drugs.
And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans.
What?
So we're working.
We're gonna make drugs available to all Americans. Hell yeah!
Fuck yeah, you got my vote, motherfucker. All right, let's go.
Thank you, President Trump.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us.
Everybody
We got hit
knows.
with
Everybody
knows
says.
that's it.
And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for
you
the
just had
military,
it.
and no wars.
Oh,
and
did it
so
switch
many
back to
other
Tumblr?
things.
Whoops.
Everything was rocking good.
Yeah,
But the thing we never
you
got
gotta
the
alt
credit
tab
for,
that,
and
bro.
we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates. That was a disaster.
There's a lot of
for our
anime
country, but
arts
other
on
than
your
that, we had
suggestions right
given them
there.
back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President Biden.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant in the military.
I mean, you should be blaming Trump for that, for saying like, oh, because he locked down the economy. But he's not saying that. He just wants to get like that little quip in that like, oh,
Herbert Hoover.
the jobs were down. He's like Hoover. He's so bad at economics.
This century,
when he's like was totally on board with the lockdowns, right?
Troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can. You want
that comment about troops
I'm going to
dying
ask
anywhere
you a
in the
follow-up. You can
world?
do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others in all fairness.
China.
It's going to
That's
just
drink.
force them to pay us
That's
a
a
lot of
drink.
money.
I don't
reduce
care
our
if it's in the
deficit
rules.
tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. Now, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months, and then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst.
He so wanted to
administration
make
in
a
history.
different
There's never been and
analogy
as far as
right then.
Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis,
His
President
mouth's
Trump, your
agape.
administration
It's like he's hearing it for the first
$8.4
time.
trillion in
That's
new debt.
a lot.
So far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to
His face is
expire
so,
next
like,
year. You want to extend them and go
deer in
even further,
headlights or
you say.
whatever.
With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, Why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cut spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred that
making notes.
tax
Okay,
spirit.
he's
Now,
making notes or something.
when we
All right,
cut
never
the
mind.
taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less
how far
tax,
in are we?
and
Like,
companies
we're
were bringing back
10 minutes in.
$10
10 minutes
back
in,
into our
yeah.
country.
We're
The
seeing how the
country
drug.
was
I
going
think
like
I think
never
the first
before.
10 minutes
And
of the
we were
drugs
ready
are the
to start
best 10
paying down
minutes.
debt.
I think
We were
so
ready to
too,
start
yeah.
using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster.
People don't like to
mandating
talk about it.
The vaccine went out. He did
People
a mandate
say-
on the vaccine, which is the
people
thing
are
that
saying-
people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very
Oh, there
poor
he goes
job,
again.
just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation. And it's a
Third
shame.
world nation.
The damage he's done to our country.
Oh.
And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America.
Trillionaires?
Trillionaires?
1,000 trillionaires?
1,000 trillionaires?
In fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those.
No,
numbers,
U.S.
they'd
GDP
raise
was
$500 million.
$1 gajillion.
I should say, in a 10-year period.
$1
We'd be
Brazilian
able to
dollars.
wipe out his debt.
Brazilian.
Help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing
Oh,
with
he's losing it.
everything
Uh-oh.
we have to do with.
Trump's like, whoa.
Completely different thought.
We finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Oh, he's right. He did beat
We
Medicare.
beat
He beat it to
Medicare,
death,
yes.
And he's destroying Medicare because all of these
Thank you,
people are
President
coming
Biden.
in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on
totally lost
Social
his thought
Security.
there.
They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way
He's
he
like,
finished that sentence.
"Am I?"
And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing
That's
for
true.
other countries, and they do
People
nothing
are
for
saying-
us.
people
But
are
this
saying we're
man
very
is
Many
stupid.
such cases,
is
many such cases.
absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential
He was
election
talking.
since the Supreme
Got
Court
his mic.
overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that. and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that
Killing it.
everybody wanted.
Killing
Now,
it
10
in the
years
womb.
ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting
51
into
years
other
old.
things.
It's
But
not-
every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the
That's
9th
Chilada
month,
says,
and even
take
after
a drink,
birth. After
China.
birth, if you look at the
That's
former
Chilada,
governor of
bro, is
Virginia,
flabbergasted.
he was willing to do this.
Luke
He said,
says
we'll put
Biden
the baby
looks like he's getting
aside,
unreal
and we'll
sloppy
determine
under
what we
that
do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
They brought Monica
What
back.
happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming
Donnie's
together
locked
on
in with
this
the
issue.
Addies.
It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
He needs that elder care, no cap, says
The
Deb
fact is
Chilada.
that the vast
We
majority
beat
of constitutional
Medicare,
scholars
hand waving.
supported Roe when it was decided.
Biden is hearing the
Supported
inner
Roe.
voice.
And
Wake up, Joe Biden.
This idea that they're
Wake
all
up.
against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in to talk
murdered
about
by
that.
an immigrant.
Here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous.
Just read your daughter's diary.
Yeah, exactly. What's Ashley Biden have to say about that? Thank you.
Many young
What's Ashley
women
Biden say
murdered
about
by the
taking a
same
shower
people
with
he
her
allows
father?
to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people.
Many people
and
want
that's
it.
where they
People
wanted
were
it.
saying.
Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion.
Her lipstick is so much
any legal
narrower
on how
than
late
her
a woman
smile.
should be able
It
to
makes her
terminate
look like
pregnancy?
Joker,
I
like got
support Roe
the
v.
got like the
Wade,
cut.
which had 3 trimesters.
You want to know how I got these scars, Mr. President?
Second time,
You want to know
how
I got these scars?
Situation.
You're
The
gonna
third
love
time
me.
is between the doctor. Between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
I'm
Roe v. Wade.
It's a slot of the radical left.
Goodbye.
Wow.
State, you can do whatever you want.
Whoops.
We don't think that's a good thing. We
There
think
goes
it's a radical
Colorado.
thing. We think the
There goes
Democrats
New
are
York.
the radicals, not
And
the
New York.
Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the
MAGA
MAGA
Republicans
control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number
No
of
response.
migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening
Cut the
cities
mic.
such
That's
as New
a
York and
time to
Chicago,
drink.
and in some
Oh, yeah.
cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where
I know I didn't
there are
actually miss
40%
anything, but
fewer
did I miss
Detention
anything?
centers.
the border legally.
No.
It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on
Auslander Rouse or something
the
like that?
total initiative relative to
Kinda.
what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country.
That's a drink.
All he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our
Who's in
country
charge
right
of
now.
Biden's
All
We
terrorists,
Vibe?
all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president.
You just said it, though.
Speak to 'em. But look,
That's a
we
drink.
had the
I'm
safest
gonna go-
border
I won't
in
say
history.
that.
I'm going to look
No,
this
we
up
had
real
the worst
quick.
border in history. There's never been anything like it.
The
and
Border
people
Patrol
are dying
police
all over the place,
union,
including the
probably.
people that are coming
Yeah.
up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed three
Oh, God, it's really
American
wearing off.
soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. Unquote.
Physically remove them,
Does that
so to
mean
speak.
that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with a bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And
I think he wants to bring up the drug crisis.
Insane and
Sounds
very
like it.
stupid policies.
He's just
people
not
are coming in and they're killing
putting
our
the word there.
citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where
this
is
like noticeable,
my
right?
Yeah,
like,
a year in Iraq.
Like
he's one of those burn pits.
He didn't start stuttering or mumbling.
He's stuttering and mumbling a little bit more.
France.
How long is this debate?
We are about halfway. We're 30 minutes.
I went to the World War II cemetery. World War I cemetery he refused to go to.
Oh wait, no, actually,
with his 4-star general.
I don't know if it's an hour or 30 minutes long.
Because they're a bunch of losers and suckers.
Oh, no, it better be an hour.
Loser was not a sucker. You're the sucker.
Oh, yeah, it's an hour.
Loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia.
Brought up Hunter Biden. That's one
he made
right
up
there.
the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Oh,
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
Sacred obligations.
Right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year.
Oh,
Former
Michael
President
Malice
Trump,
just tweeted that
Russian
Biden brought up
President
burn pits.
Vladimir Putin says
Burn
he'll
pits, which
only
is a holy
end
fuck
this
kind of
war
thing, which is
if
like
Russia keeps
Biden knows he sent
Ukrainian
his son to
territory it has
die
already
in Iraq.
claimed,
And
and
that's why his
Ukraine
son has brain
abandons its bid
cancer.
to
It's because of the
join
burn
NATO.
pits.
yeah.
Are Putin's terms
How do you live
acceptable
with
to
that
you?
kind of shit,
First
you
of
know?
all, our veterans
When
and
you're
our
a
soldiers
reptile, it's easy.
can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him. that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about
The
any
coverage
of them.
on Biden.
And that's
is
based on
so
every
much.
single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people
Trump
behind,
talk
too. We left
more?
American citizens behind.
It seems like
when
it.
Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in.
I'd like
and
to see the
maybe
breakdown,
take
but it seems
this
like in real
his
time they're
dream.
just
I
making
talked
a
to
little
him
bit of
about
a
it, his
choice. Be
dream.
like,
The
Biden
difference is
gets 30
he
seconds
never would have invaded
to like
Ukraine.
plug his like
Never.
one-liners
Just
because that's
like
all he can
Israel
get
would
through.
have never
Yeah.
been invaded
And then
in a
Trump
million
gets
years
to
by
ramble.
Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the
Except
whole
for
world
ISIS,
is blowing
but
up
sure.
under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look.
Oh, malarkey! Malarkey!
Situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president.
Brain
They
damage?
attacked. He
I
said
want
we
to
just
I want to
having
snip that
headaches. That's
clip
all
of
it
him
is.
like
He
stumbling
didn't
through
do
the
a
words
thing
brain
when the attack
damage.
took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And
Oh,
he went
okay.
in.
Thank
Listen
you
to
for
what he said
completing
when
that
he went in.
thought.
Yeah.
I
We're
was a
gonna
little
take
worried.
I was like, what are we talking about?
Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish.
I thought that was going to be a
Key.
drink.
And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
as
never
come
said
back
What?
to you
that.
He's
for 1
admitting
minute,
that
I just
Ukraine's
wanna go
lost
back to my original
500,000
question, which
No,
is,
troops?
are
Russia
Putin's
lost 500,000
terms
troops.
acceptable to you?
Oh,
Keeping the
okay.
territory in
I was going to
Ukraine.
say,
No,
like,
they're not
that would
acceptable.
be
But look,
very
this is
close
a
to
war that
hand
never should have
information.
started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed
Before
so
I take
needlessly,
office.
so stupidly.
Oh, wow.
And I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
All right.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine?
Dominoes
What do
will
you think
fall.
happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, and by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have
No, we're
produced
definitely
as
giving the
much
money.
funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian
Thousands?
crisis
I thought
in
it
Gaza.
was like 40
President Biden,
thousands.
Yeah, tens
you've
of
put
thousands.
forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so
Thousands
far,
seems
Hamas
like an
has
understatement.
not released the remaining
You know.
hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council, especially the G7, to the Israelis and Netanyahu
To be fair,
himself
he's
have
always had
endorsed
like
the
a
plan
little
I put
stutter,
forward.
but like
Endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need
just
them.
1,500-pound bombs.
I'm
You know?
the guy
1,500s are
that
fine.
organized
Thousands
the
are
world
fine.
against Iran when they had a
Plus 2
full-blown
munitions is fine.
intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts.
We're making fun of Biden for this, and then Trump's going to
like
suck.
we did bin Laden.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to do it
so hard
By
Yeah.
the way,
in the
they
follow-up.
greatly weakened Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on
They
them
gotta pay these people
because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I had no
I've never heard
idea
so much
if he
foolishness.
was about to
This is a guy
like
who
drop
wants to
some
get
new
out of
policy
NATO.
on
You
him,
understand
and then
that?
it was like,
We're
oh
gonna
no,
pull out of
like the
NATO.
genocide's a good
The
thing.
idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50
real-time
other nations
stats
around the world
on
to support
Predict
Ukraine,
It
including
have
Japan
Biden
and
down
South
10
Korea,
cents
because they
in the
understand
election.
that this kind of dislocation
538
Since the
released
start
some
of the
polling.
whole world
Like
peace.
Trump has like a
No major
76%
war in
chance
Europe
right
has ever
now,
been able to be contained.
or
just in Europe.
67, excuse me, somewhere around
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next
Carl
month.
Sagan right here, billions
But
and billions.
Now we're in the
Billions
same
and billions.
position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6th.
Oh, here we go. Oh,
after
yeah.
you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes.
Based.
As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is
Reflecting
horrible,
pretty hard from the
including
issue.
weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be
Could
talking
have said,
about.
like, look at
where
my
he goes
tweet,
after his
which was
political
like,
opponent 'cause he can't beat him
stop,
fair and
don't
square.
go, stop, you know?
have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on
Okay,
tape
this is
to
what he
her
needed to
daughter,
say.
who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying,
Filmmaker?
oh, no,
Filmmaker.
it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in that dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done
cutting
to
'em
some
early.
people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What
Miss
he
Chaz,
said
that was a
about
fun time.
this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at.
Hey, it's a convicted
The fact of
felon.
the matter
Convicted
is,
felon. It
he
took
is-
45
what
minutes
he's
or
telling you is
whatever.
simply not true. The fact is
Right?
that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody just when they
Solitary
broke down doors,
confinement for
broke
all
the
political
windows,
dissidents.
occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over
Turned
statues.
over desks!
The
They
idea
pooped in Nancy
that those
Pelosi's
people
desk.
Are patriots? Come on. When I asked him the
Come
first
on,
two
man.
debates we had, the debates we had first
That's a
time
drink.
around, I said, "Will you denounce the Proud Boys?" He said, "No, I'll tell them to stand by." The idea he's refusing. Will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything.
Quid
We're
pro
not gonna
quo,
give you
that's a
$1 billion
drink.
unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right
It's a
to seek
lie.
retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night wow. Your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have
He's
a
like,
moral
yeah,
like that.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the
Our
tens of
democracy.
millions of Americans who are likely to
That's a
vote
drink.
for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they
Against
know about what
democracy?
he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said,
Bringing up Charlottesville.
What do you think of those people? The people
going back.
The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say? Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing.
Coming out of fields?
I love how he's painting.
Coming out of fields!
This is the guy who says Hitler's done some
Nazis
good
of the corn!
I'd like to know what they are. Good things Hitler's done, that's what he said.
The Wheatfield
This guy has no
trad
sense of
Nazi
American democracy.
girls.
President Trump.
Jake, both of
Biden
you know
made
that
them
story's
real.
been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all.
Nazis just
And the
spawn in the
idea
woods. They're
that he's
like,
talking
they're
about
like,
all this
it's
being
the moss
fabricated. We saw it
and
with our own
the
eyes. We saw what
fog
happened
of the
on January.
dew of the
We saw
morning,
the people breaking through the windows. We saw people
and they
occupying
just
his
spawn.
own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top.
Oh, way to come in at the end,
He's
fag.
endorse him this time. His vice president.
I saw
hasn't endorsed
the
him this
drinking
time.
list,
So
and I'm
why?
like, I won't make
Why?
it
They
10
know him
minutes.
well.
I know.
They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Wow. Commercial
they're
break,
doing
50 minutes into it. Okay.
I thought it was an hour long, right?
Supposed to be.
It's supposed to be.
So what? They're gonna have like closing statements after the commercial break, or what?
Yes.
Give me the highlights.
It's, I don't know.
The usual.
The usual.
Classic.
Biden was not stuttering at all at first, and he's starting to stutter a little
Yeah,
bit
it
more.
was a little bit. Like, he's mostly coherent, but it's a little messy.
The drugs are wearing off.
A little bit. Hang on, let me kill that. Don't need that shit.
Yeah, they might have tested something that they're like, this will make it the hour that we need it to make it.
Yeah.
You know?
Or like, there's supposed to be like a 2-minute delay, so maybe somebody dropped on stage and they're reviving them right now.
Oh shit! Yeah, there might be like a towel guy in the corner giving them some.
A towel, yeah, the towel guy smelling salts and like each getting an adrenochrome shot.
Gotta keep them primed.
Yeah, man.
Biden's. I mean, I don't want to say this as like a bias either way, because like Trump's also horrible, but like Trump is like coherent in a sense.
Yeah.
And then Biden's kind of just trying to put stories together all the time and
He
just
said
like
malarkey
does
at
not
least
have
once.
any details about those stories.
Yeah, it's a little mumbly, a little drifty.
I mean, like Trump could kill him like so much harder if he really wanted to.
Like if it was an open thing and they weren't cutting mics, like it would be
Yep.
would be bad.
Mm-hmm. We also noticed, and it would be very interesting to count the time spoken, because it seems like they're letting Biden just do like one-liners and then letting Trump rant, so that Biden doesn't have to talk as much. This is like Biden's good for like 30 seconds when he has a thought, and then It's like about second 90 that you're like, whoa, okay, where are we going?
Yeah. Isn't it just wonderful? These are the two men that are one of which is going to lead the country. Like, this is it. This is what we have.
I'm looking for. It's like, I mean,
I
accelerationism.
want to imagine what RFK would look like on the stage with them.
That would be
RFK is like at least like intelligent. Like, I mean, he's a trial lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Like, not in a way that like JFK or Biden or Hillary was, but like actual trial lawyer. And he's got the fucked up voice, but like he could probably mince these two guys. Like, he has a comeback for everything that would like really drive home, at least to RFK's base, which would be a lot of, I think, more Trump people, to be honest, at this point. Especially with his stance on Israel and everything.
Yeah. But he also does have the brain parasite, so again, we just can't have a candidate that doesn't have some sort of brain deformity.
It's a requirement. No, like my kids weren't going to sleep tonight, by the way.
Oh, perfect.
Naturally.
They knew. Yeah, I don't know if this is a commercial break or what, but like, oh, here we go. Yep, they heard me talking shit.
Oh, I should have been grabbing another drink.
I am tapped out on drinking.
That's why I'm late.
Welcome back to the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first term.
Oh, we're still going.
And
All
you'd
right.
certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earned far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes. And black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate
Biden,
of white
whenever
Americans.
they leave the camera on
What do you say to
Biden,
black
it's
voters
just like,
who
it's
are
tragic.
disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
He literally,
He acknowledged he made a lot of
nothing was
progress,
there.
number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages
No, that
of
was
black-
during the
black
PPP loans.
unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long,
It was
long
the
time.
highest.
Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care.
This is what I say, like 90.
Yeah,
You
it didn't start like this.
Piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We're going to make sure
black children in half.
child care costs. We're going to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea
Oh, it's a
that
90-minute
any
debate.
black family,
Oh,
first-time
okay.
home
All
buyer
right.
should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home, so they can get started.
Okay,
Make sure
minute
we're in a
90 is
situation
going to
where
be
all those
interesting.
Black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans.
Because this is where we're at.
This
It's
is
like
yeah.
at 50.
Engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism.
There we go.
If they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live.
Quintupled.
They're not living anymore.
Sextupled.
He
Add
caused this
any
inflation.
multiplier I
gave him
want.
a country with
Dodecupled.
essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused
Green New
inflation.
Scam drink.
As sure as you're sitting there,
Yeah, I'll
the
drink to that.
fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in
Thousands
developed
of
communities,
millions?
including
Thousands
minority
of
communities.
millions.
We made sure that they
There's
have
literally
health insurance.
billions of
We have
employed
covered-
people in the
ACA
United
has
States.
increased. I made sure that there are $8,000
Just like there's 1,000
per person in a
trillionaires.
family
1,000
get
trillionaires.
written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but inflation,
There's a lot going
he
on.
caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former
whiny
President Trump,
Europeans.
you've vowed to end your opponent's climate
You're the fucking
initiatives,
AC
but
unit.
will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black
Almost everyone.
population is
Everyone's
horrible,
saying.
including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we
That's a
can't
drink.
forget that.
Everyone.
Super predators was his name. And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it. And now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate
I forgot
clean
that was the
water,
question.
and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we did.
We had H2O!
All forms of energy.
We
all
had it!
forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever.
We had
And
the
my top
Aqua-Cola.
environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
They were even going to bring Crystal Pepsi
I
back.
don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for
Okay, he's
HBCUs,
totally
historic
mixing
black
pots now.
universities and colleges,
Can't-
because they
you
don't
can't
have
track 'em.
they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money. But now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the
he's
idea
fucking
that
breaking down.
he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing with the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it Because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it.
Not
He wants
nuclear
to
war?
do all that I've done.
Because that's what the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists
Paris
are worried
Accord, which
about.
will cost us
That's
$1
what that
trillion,
clock is for.
and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing.
Because you can't
It was
keep
a
giving
ripoff of the
cluster
United
munitions to
States.
drop on fucking
And
beaches
I ended
in
it
Russia.
because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that
That was a pregnant pause there.
We were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get its pollution under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have pollution in half. We have made significant progress. And we're continuing.
The U.S. is the
We set up a
nation with the
climate corps
fastest
where
reduction
thousands of young
in
people will learn
carbon
how to deal with
emissions
just
in the
like
world.
the Peace Corps, and we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause.
We're
of pollution.
allegedly the
But
second largest
idea
polluter.
that he claims that he has the
Okay.
biggest heart up here, and he's
Check
very
our
concerned
rivers and
about
streams
about
compared to Indonesia.
pollution and about
India.
climate.
Or India.
I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35.
Trump did a really good job to
voluntarily.
like
I made sure
derailing the
every
climate
company in the
conversation
world,
because
every
he's got Biden
pharmaceutical
talking about
company
prescription
cannot have to
drugs
Thank you.
Yeah.
on
By
this
the way,
question.
So every day, millions of Americans
Yes.
struggle just
Oh,
to
the
make
mic
ends
cut
meet. For
just-
many older Americans, Social
Yo,
Security
so-
provides a
Yeah,
critical
so
lifeline.
China is
President Biden, if
30%
nothing is done
of
to
global
Social Security,
emissions.
seniors will see their benefits
United
cut
States is
in
like
just over 10 years. Will
less
you
than half
name
what
tonight
China's
one
doing.
specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under
What's a fair share,
$170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1%.
I like how Biden
beyond
thinks
to be
people
able
who make
to guarantee the
$400,000
program
aren't
for life.
wealthy.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other
They're
measures that you
impoverished.
think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
So-
Well, no, that one enough will keep
How
it
do
solvent.
millionaires
The
only pay
biggest thing
1%,
we'll do,
Biden?
We defeat this man because he
Explain
wants
it.
to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as
I feel like, by the
we're in
way,
a
should be one of
circumstance
the terms
where
from
400,000
from
people,
Biden because he's just
40
always going on a
40 million
tangent.
people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation
By the
where
way,
I talk about
again.
education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000
Pell Grant?
get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden.
I don't
President
think
Trump.
you know what you're talking
So
about,
I've dealt
dude.
with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen
back on
anybody
it?
lie like this guy. He lies. I've never
Well,
seen it. He can look you in the
I've been
face.
here for like 10 minutes,
About
so-
so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, 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 Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child
gay
care, which many
academics
American
think.
families
Right,
struggle to
players?
afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much.
So Trump, the question was, what's your middle name?
He wants open borders. He wants our country to either
Trump,
be
the
destroyed
question was,
or
do you prefer chocolate or vanilla ice cream?
Voters. Yeah. And I don't think we just can't let it happen.
The question, sir, was,
wins this election,
is this your signature?
Our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
No, it's a vote. That's a vote for Biden for me.
We're the most admired country in the world.
Yeah,
the United States of America.
Rolling.
There's
No
nothing
country.
beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world. The finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians. They've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of
liberal
American
historians
history.
got together.
That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted.
In between the circle
idea
jerks,
he
they
is
decided that Donald
doing
Trump
anything to deal with
bad.
child care.
Man, orange man,
He
bad.
did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody.
Okay,
making
got there.
less than
We got there.
We got there.
I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are very important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China.
Perfect.
He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog. That's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very.
That's one. We bought the dog. That's a buy.
He came along.
We bought the certain dog.
Have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways. They don't even talk about gotaways, but the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border. The worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more
fentanyl machines,
more numbers of agents, more numbers
Even
of
big machines that
all
roll over the
border.
cars and detect the
when
fentanyl.
we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines.
We
We're
need the
coming down
fentanyl
very
machines.
hard
We need the fentanyl machines.
in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl, and Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage.
Oy vey, the $6 billion.
I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people.
The $6
I got
billion.
58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented
The whole
those
idea
chips.
of computer.
The whole idea of computer
He was
chips.
sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced
man-
Samsung to invest.
We
billions of
need to
dollars
treat
here in the
Biden
United
like Kim
States.
Jong-un and just
then
make him
guess
tour
what?
factories
Those
Oh, my
fabs
God.
so he understands what's going on in the
build these
economy.
The idea
Those
of
fabs
computer
pay over
chips.
$100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, we send love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who
sending
have
love letters to
concerns
Kim
about
Jong-un.
your
Of course, me
capabilities
too.
to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2
Wherever
club
we may have
championships, not
wood.
even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm in good
I want to
shape
see a
as
golf
I was
tournament
25,
between
30
them.
years ago. Actually,
Be
I'm
fun.
probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is.
Fuck.
Take a look at what he is. Look
Look
I'd
at
be
what
happy
he is.
to have
What
a
he
driving
is.
contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Okay, these guys legitimately need to golf together.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
I know you swing.
President Trump,
I've seen you
Let's
swing.
not act like
Oh
children.
my God! What a bitchy New York woman.
concern
Oh.
that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
World War III.
World War III. Let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, a required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border.
Getting
Then
close.
you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of
gently
this
surprised
election,
by Biden at
regardless
this
of
point.
who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. and he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers.
I missed that.
They've lost so many people. It's so sad.
Trump
They've
just
lost
publicly
so many
said
people,
Ukraine isn't going to win the war.
Gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But
Nice
unfortunately,
location.
it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level, because the people understand.
A very high level.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it, because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential
She's like,
debate,
with more?
live from Georgia.
This is I think, okay, the last round of presidential debates was also entertaining. But this has been more entertaining than I remember the first ones. I haven't laughed as hard.
Yeah, this has been pretty good. Oh man, I suppose they're probably going to do closing stuff next, because it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was like 5-minute breaks or something like that.
I guess, yeah.
What were the other stories that we were kind of thinking about?
Oh, let's see.
Assange is home free.
Assange is free. I'm worried he's still gonna get like suicided or something, but like that's good. He is out fucking finally and going home. All because Trump went to the Libertarian Convention and said he was gonna pardon Assange, and Biden was like, "Oh, I'll do that."
I still want to see Ross out.
Yeah, that
Ross
would
is
be
our
nice.
age, you know, and he's
Oh,
serving double life sentences. And
we were also gonna talk about how in like the UK and Australia, like the military recruitment ads have returned to showing all white people actually in combat situations, and like they're using the Call of Duty point of view for all of them, and it's like, oh, okay, interesting.
y'all are a little serious about this recruitment thing.
Yeah,
right
wow! All of
now.
a sudden, you just want all the white boys to come declare jihad on the world for you. All right, I see how it is.
Have you seen any of the polls, or are you tracking the UK election at all?
No, I suppose I don't know that.
It might be like too deep to get into in like the next 2 minutes.
We should do that next
episode.
episode. I think that would be a good one, because we'll be able to do like reception of this debate too.
Yeah, honestly, it'd be a great episode if we could get Cybersmith,
Yeah, absolutely.
Cybersmith to comment on the British elections, because like I have an outsider view, but obviously he'd be an insider, and he's got interesting perspectives.
Oh yes, he does.
Yes, he does. And but like Reform is like the second leading party now in the UK. replacing
Here's the
the
thing.
Tories.
I don't know any of these UK political parties. Like, I know nothing. Like, the Conservatives or the Tories or whatever they are. I don't know what they are. Like, I know.
Conservatives and Tories are like the Republicans, and Labor is the Democrats, and
Okay.
then Lib Dems are like kind of libertarians, and then but like the gay woke libertarians, and
All right.
then Reform is like the Patrick Buchanan party,
Okay.
if you want to make like a analysis of it. But yeah,
Sure.
Nigel took over. Nigel Farage, who was leader of UKIP,
Mhm.
took over the Reform Party just like a couple weeks ago, and they went from like a couple like single digits in the polls to going to being the second party in
Wow.
Britain
What if it's
behind.
Farage again?
Can't barrage the Farage.
Can't barrage the barrage.
And so he's looking at being the opposition leader for the next few years, and I think if he can completely destroy the Tories, he could be the prime minister by the end of the decade.
That's wild. All right, here we go.
Which would be insane because Farage is like a gold, like fed
We've made
truther
significant
kind of guy.
progress from the debacle that was left.
Anyways, let's get back to our
President Trump
boring
and
Old man
domestic
fight.
politics. Old man fight.
We found ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that will be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies.
Okay.
Well, guess what? We got it.
It's a little bit of a reboot.
We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits that people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
All right, I guess we're gonna get the results.
Oh, I honestly want to see how this CNN like initial reaction is to this, because like I have a biased Twitter, you know, I curate my feed, but a lot of people are posting like reposting like reactions to the debate where people are freaking out. They're like, Biden did not do well.
No, yeah.
Like Democrats internally are saying like, we need a
Oops.
new candidate.
Trump's Instagram page posted a video of like Trump golf swinging, like teeing off, and like the golf ball flies and hits Biden, and he falls over on stage. Oh man. Actually, can I just leave the volume on, or are we gonna get that annoying tone again? All right, we're okay.
Matt, what's he up to? Where's he been?
I don't know.
My
All right.
no, I don't know if I should read this out loud. Let me read it.
All right, yeah, I'm not it's some governor's thing. Okay.
Okay, yep. Yeah, Matt's not gonna be able to join us for a minute.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
Okay, did he message the chat?
Yeah, you can read it. I wouldn't read it out loud. Not that it's horrible, but
okay. Yeah, no worries. This is what happens when you're a successful family man. You got to do family stuff.
right.
So, I mean, I don't really...
Teasing the longhouse, we know how it is.
Yeah. So, I don't really care for CNN's opinion. Like, Trump was definitely deflecting questions a lot, but, like, he definitely came off way stronger than Biden. Like, that was not good.
I'm just wondering. Yeah, where are people at? Because, like, I think, unfortunately, elections are decided by like some dude who only started paying attention like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, or a week from now, one of the two.
Or a week from now. And it was like, huh, what's all this hubbub about?
Huh.
And that, I mean, I guess that's supposing that elections are free and fair. But given that they are, like, yeah, like the average person, just from a evolutionary psychology point of view, would like look at those two and just obviously pick Trump. I think just from a vigor point of view, they'd say, oh yeah, Trump's the strong guy. And RFK would I think logically beat them on a lot of points, and then just look weak because of his voice, you know? And that's how the average person would interpret him, as just being like, oh yeah, he's weak. I mean, disregarding like if you're, you know, trying to take into account like how cucked they all are by AIPAC, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's trying to prove how, like, you know, much they want to get on their knees for
Israel.
Israel. Like, oh well, okay.
I love that they were actually arguing about golf. Like, they were arguing over their
I
handicap. I know you swing. I've seen you swing.
We need a gladiatorial contest to determine president.
We do. They should play golf. They should play golf.
They should
absolutely play golf.
Legitimately more democratic than just like who has the best arguments.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think like, oh, who can convince the best golfer to join our side of the team and like golf?
Oh
to
yeah,
us.
you could have like a champion instead of them doing it. Like you could have like like a stand-in. Oh man. Ugh. What a shit show. Well, what else do we want to talk about?
Oh, what else was on the agenda? We said Assange,
We said
which is great.
Assange, White Boy Summer.
I think he's gonna take like a solid like 3-5 months of like I'm not in prison anymore, and then he'll like get back to like being on podcasts and
Yeah,
stuff like
probably.
that.
Luke power stands up, so Luke M1911, I'm assuming. Yeah, arguing about golf while everyone is poor and dying was king maneuvers, to be quite honest. Flex. That is very true.
Why are we pretending to care about the plebs?
Yeah,
Let's just
fuck it.
like
Yeah,
let's have a golf
let's
tournament
have a golf.
depending.
Let the plebs eat cake while we sell it on the green, motherfucker. Oh
That's
man.
how basic American politics is now. Um, wait, I can't get to. Okay, there we go. What else did we want to say? Oh, the recruitment ads and the effervescence of White Boy Summer.
The
That was
effervescence
the
of
final.
White Boy Summer. That speaks for itself. I mean,
I I think we're getting somewhere.
I think so too.
I think there's a road trip, and part of the joy is just seeing the things you see while you're on the road trip, right?
Word, exactly. Like the
And
bison.
even if you're not in the middle of no like a beautiful mountain range or canyons and stuff like that, like you're in the Midwest, there's a hilarious billboard
Oh
and
yeah.
you've been driving through 6 hours of corn and then you see like hell is real. That's amazing.
My favorite one is like doing
That's
like
something
I
only
ninety
we can
five.
experience here on Earth. That's
I
the joy. That's the gift that we receive.
I-95 on the East Coast. It's like hell is real. Repent now. Next sign. Adult lingerie and toy store. Next exit. Next sign. Peaches, oranges, and then you go through the Jurassic gates into Florida. But yeah, man, road trips in America. I am going on another one in July. I just went to Yellowstone, and I have no idea what I'm doing for my next one. I'll probably figure it out like a week before. I'll just be like, I'm going here. And I'll just do that. But it's fun. I just like going randomly out and just doing shit and just not exactly knowing where I'm going, just having a general idea in mind. Seeing what happens. Also, I gotta say, southeastern Idaho is fucking boring as shit. It is nothing.
Southeast?
Yeah, like it's just farms and just hills. Like that's it.
Well, like you get right next to the border and you get the west side of the Tetons, right?
Yeah, no, so like that's kind of nice, but like where I was going specifically, it was like it was gorgeous, but it was just there was just nothing out there.
I remember in South Idaho, and I'll admit not southeast. Okay, I played a gig in like Idaho Falls and like Pocatello and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And those towns are kind of shitholes,
A
but
little bit.
little bit. But like the Columbia or like it was it the Snake or the Columbia like River Valley was just like breathtaking, and there's sand dunes and the craters of the moon. Did you go craters of the moon at all?
No, I did not.
Oh, see that's like stepping out into the fucking Mars, basically. I'm
Word.
pretty sure that's where they faked some of it, you know,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
for the moon landings. They're, you know, it's just like,
Ooh, you know what I've actually what I could do? I've always wanted to go to like Nevada and look like visit like nuclear test sites and like try to get like as close as possible to Area 51. Visit like Rachel, Nevada and shit.
you know, the thing is, with Area 51 is like that's the one place that they like actually have the resources to patrol the like border to.
Yeah.
But there's like so many other bases in Nevada that they just like don't they don't have the resources to like constantly patrol. It's like too big of
Area
a border.
51 is like the aggro base. They're like, yeah, pay attention to this one. Ooh, it's weird.
Exactly. No. They want you to like be like going to that one, but like there's so many other test sites and like runways and stuff that like all you have to do is get up on some like I mean it's the Basin and Range province, right? Like where you get all these valleys and hills or mountains really. And like you just get on one mountain range, you can see all the way to the next mountain range like 70, 80 miles, and you can see this airstrip below you. It's wacky out there.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. I'd consider that. I have spent the whole week like I thought I had like last week I was like busy as shit, like literally dusk to dawn working, running this fun stuff for people, and
Weapons trafficking.
like this week I was like, oh, like the schedule's like almost empty. And like all I need to do is like a few admin things here and there. I'll like send some emails and like work on some projects like I had been putting on the back burner for a week or two. And I just like can't get a break this week. Like every week, every day I'm like, oh, I like I have the day to myself. Like I'll just send an email out and like I don't have to reply for it for a week. And then like shit hits the fan where I'm like, oh, I have to like email 80 people about how or like I not email. I have to like refund people because like shit's broken or like I'm like I was trying to do a bunch of car projects today and every 30 45 minutes I get like a text about how something's wrong at work and I'm like I'm off today. Like why am I like what's my luck that I have to like fix something every hour or something like that when like I just want to change my fucking oil, man. I just want to sit in the fucking garage and listen to Creed and have hot black liquid rush over my face and hands.
Hell yeah. I miss changing my oil. I haven't changed my oil in several years. I can't work on my vehicle in the shared parking lot of the apartment complex I live in, which is gay because I'm the only person who abides by that rule. I have seen people do fucking literal engine swaps in the parking lot, but I don't have any of my fucking tools, so
Yeah, no. So tomorrow, so I did all my car shit, which I rotated my tires and I changed the oil. It was my first oil change on my new car. I did it
Nice.
at 3,100 miles because I drive a lot in the mountains and off road.
Yeah.
Which is they recommend if do it at half intervals if you do that a lot. And I found I was missing about a quart of oil out of 4.6 quarts of oil, which I boxers are like it's the break-in period, right?
Sure.
For a boxer engine. So like it makes sense to me that it should burn a little extra oil during the break-in period.
Okay.
Because I don't want to sound braggadocious. My parents owned Porsches while I was growing up, and a Porsche, and I'd help my dad change the oil on the Porsche, and it was an expected thing that a Porsche boxer engine burns oil, and like you'd get less out of it than what you put into it. But like I think going forward it shouldn't be a problem because like I've had the same engine in my girlfriend's car for the last 2 years, and like the oil's basically it almost consumes no oil, right? But also it's like I'm the one driving this car, and like I don't want to say I have a lead foot, but I enjoy the boxer brumble on a like nice high rev engine. Like I took it like off roading 100 miles in the mountains, which was dope. I loved
My
it.
friend, you are speaking to somebody with a V8 Hemi. I understand that urge very well. It is a beautiful thing. Sometimes you just gotta let it rip, man. You gotta fang it.
Well, okay, I don't know if you know the specs per se on yours, but like for mine, like at the peak torque's at 4,400 RPM, and the rev limiter's at 6,000, and it like I was legitimately saying, I'm at 10,000 feet elevation, off-roading on loose gravel, up like 15, 20-degree hills.
Yeah.
Like it's and loose gravel, like rocks and stuff like that. And I'm also, what else am I doing? I mean, it's like I said, it's the break-in period for the engine. So like I'm not overly concerned that it consumed half a quart of oil.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I'll keep tabs on it. I'm gonna check the oil often, make sure it's not overly consuming oil. It wasn't leaking at all or anything like that.
It's probably
But
fine.
yeah,
It's probably fine.
yeah. No, I mean, like I said, boxers are known for burning a little oil because of the layout of the engine. They're just like shallow as far as a engine block goes, right? So
I had a Subaru for a little bit, and my mom and my sister both drive Subarus consistently, so I'm very familiar with them. They're very good cars. They just gotta get their oil changed frequently.
yeah, no,
That's
and
it.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's whatever. Like,
At it's just like when somebody's who's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fucking drive my WRX like a fucking hooligan, like all the time, and then I'm gonna only change the oil every 10,000 miles. Like,
oh
yeah, your
no.
engine's gonna blow up.
Yeah. Oh, what's that? Knock, 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 knock. Oh, geez, that's not good, man. Bet she should have changed the oil and maybe not done so many fucking drifts. Ugh.
But yeah, so on my girlfriend's car, like it's on the stands right now in the garage, which we got rid of the couch in my garage,
Oh,
which was a great thing to have happened. It's a little sad because like, oh, you could sit and
yeah.
like enjoy a little couch beer or whatever in the garage, but I only think I did that once, but
Fair
in like
enough.
a year of having the couch in the garage, got rid of the couch, and now I'm like got all this room to do car projects.
Oh, okay.
And so anyways, I just need to change your oil, but I also need to change your diff fluid, which I've not done before. I've changed transmission fluid, I've changed engine oil. Diff fluid's a new one for me. Pretty sure I can at least take care of half of it, like the rear differential. Front differential might be a little more of a challenge, but we'll see.
I think
It's just like
you'll handle it.
I went into this week like having so many projects, and then I was like waiting on Amazon shipping, and then I was waiting on and then I like had all this work shit come up, and I like feel very defeated from not completing the things that I said like, oh, I wanted this done yesterday, and like I'm halfway done with the things I wanted to do.
There's always tomorrow,
Indeed,
and it's another
indeed.
opportunity for more shit to happen.
Well, that's the thing is like based on what happened today, I have a lot of actual work to do today,
Yeah.
which I was not planning on at all. I
I'm
thought I was
sorry, man.
basically going to be on call, and now I have to do a lot of shit tomorrow.
Mm.
Such is life.
Such is life.
How's the Mormon you got
It
to marry
has.
somebody, right?
I did. So I performed a marriage ceremony last Saturday. It was very quick, and it was basically like a courthouse wedding, just quicker. And they emailed
Did
me
you
their license, and that was it.
Okay, that I was going to say like how's the paperwork taken care of?
It's all online in Utah. It's super easy. They make it super expedient to get married very quickly. Like emailing back and forth, you can have it processed in like an hour or so.
The state only has a 1 hour waiting period on permission to fuck.
Yep.
Incredible. When they say Utah is so conservative.
All the white children that are being created in this state for the white pharaoh, you have no idea. The pharaoh's army grows strong. Oh. But it has been a little slower, actually, sales wise. It's our slow season is the summer because everybody's like out on vacation and spending
Yeah.
money on like outdoor shit. So it's down a little bit, but there are more proposals and weddings and whatnot. So bridals are up, so it kind of evens out. It's just it's higher tickets, so more sale, like more per sale, but just less sales, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But that's okay.
Mostly evens out.
Yeah, pretty much. But I don't know. We've been going 2 hours now. This has been a good episode.
Indeed.
But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for our coverage of the debate, and what a fucking train wreck that was. Holy shit. I'm looking forward to the presidential golf game. I think that'll be exciting. Also, they're doing another debate in September, I think, so I guess we'll see. But yeah. Stay safe out there.
Wait, in September?
I think. Let me look it up.
Let's look it up. Yeah.
Jamie, look that up. Second debate. Tuesday, September 10th.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
2 months.
2 months.
That's plenty of time to swap out a candidate.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. But ladies and gentlemen, you stay safe out there this election season. And as always, taxation is theft.